What's up, everybody? I am Jesse, or GameOverJesse as some of y'all may know me, and you are watching the Hylians Gamescast. And here with me, as always, is Daniel. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Daniel.
Hello, everybody. If you've ever watched this before, I hope you already know who I am, but here I am again.
Yes, and joining us for the very first time is our special guest, Kayla. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Kayla. I'm just kind of joining in today. We're going to talk about Zelda and stuff, I guess.
Alright, and it is currently Tuesday, February 20th, unless you're a time traveler, and today's news, we may not be able to cover all of it, but what we have for the news is Nintendo considering letting players control the weather in Breath of the Wild, but apparently that feature was cancelled. Although it would have been cool to play around with the weather and stuff in Breath of the Wild, because I would have just made it never rain. We have
Accurate.
Rumors for Pokemon on the Nintendo Switch, some Hyrule Warriors details, a new game that looks really similar to Breath of the Wild. I thought it would be fun to chat about it. It is called Yonder. And finally, hackers have emulators working on the Nintendo Switch for people to play classic Super Nintendo games and all of that fun stuff, if you're into that. After we get through the news, we will head into the questions. If you would like to have your question take priority, because this time it looks like we have a ton of questions, head over to patreon.com/GameOverJesse to where you can put in your question and have it take priority. Now, after all of that and almost being out of breath, Daniel, why don't you take us into our first piece of news?
Yes, let's. I'm just opening the article. So, as Jesse mentioned, it would be cool. Nintendo considered letting players control the weather in Breath of the Wild. So that would have alleviated a lot of climbing troubles that occurred.
Yeah.
There was a quote here from an interview with Game Informer where Mr. Fujibayashi, whose name I probably butchered.
No, I think you got it right. Fujibayashi.
Close enough.
We never pronounce anything correctly on this show. He says, initially we did consider giving players control of the weather, but realized not being able to control it is much more fun. Controlling it wasn't really fitting in this game. In Ocarina of Time, you were in places that were just sunny or raining. That was the way the player were able to control that. Adding in the weather control would have increased the number of variables in the world. It was more interesting to have Link against nature, not controlling it. That ended up being more natural and fun. So when he talks about controlling the weather before, I think he needs basically just the Song of Storms. Really just that one part. But
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, that's either sunny or then it's raining for a short time.
Yeah. And then there's whenever you get all three spiritual stones and get close to the castle, it gets all dark and gloomy and starts raining. I think that's really the only time. Unless you count wait, does it snow in Zora River? Like they mentioned that the air is cold and you have to go and figure out what's wrong, and it turns out that Zora's domain's frozen. But is there actual snow?
I think when you get to close to the waterfall, there's a little bit. But I think that's it.
Yeah, I can't really remember. Can you guys think of any other games that let you control the weather? Autobot Starscream in the chat said, weather control in Zelda are the devs thinking about Ocarina of Seasons and the weather control songs from the first 3D games. You were able to control weather in Seasons? Or I guess that goes along with controlling the seasons, because if you make it winter, then it'll be snowing. It wasn't necessarily...
It's not really weather.
Yeah.
It's time travel, really.
Yeah. But, there's been games, like A Link to the Past had the medallion that let you use lightning bolts and stuff, which I guess you have a similar ability in this from Urbosa that lets it lightning. But as far as actually controlling the weather, I think it would have been really cool. Would you guys have liked it? What do you think it would have been? Would it have been an ability that they would have gotten from one of the champions, or would it have been an item that you picked up somewhere?
I kind of imagined that it was one of the runes when I was reading it, but I mean, I don't see how it would be useful other than it just not raining. But that's the thing is then it would just be sunny all the time, because that would be just how I would have it.
Yeah,
And-
I feel like if they tried to incorporate that, you'd have to do a lot of like, okay, like it needs to be raining specifically for this, which I think there actually is a part in the game where it needs to be raining and you need to be in a certain place for something to happen. But like that's the only time that it was actually kind of relevant. But for the most part, I felt like Breath of the Wild just like it knew that you were doing something important, so it was gonna rain.
Yeah, there was a point where I restarted my game on master mode recently, and I got to a cliff's edge, and it was sunny, and literally I get like 2 climbs up, and the rain starts, and I'm like, no, right? So I ended up slipping and falling into water and drowning, and then I I woke up on like the last ledge that I'd been on, and it wasn't raining. So I'm like, great, the rain stopped. So I went back to climb the cliff, and it started raining again.
Yeah,
There-
right?
isn't
Only
there-
rains
As
when
soon
you
as
don't
I
need
reached
it
the
to.
top, it stopped.
Isn't there one area in the game that involves one of the shrines to... I think it's a shrine quest, and it's always raining in that spot.
The Thundra Plateau.
Because
Mhm.
I think like if you listen, Cass is playing the Song of Storms in the area,
Yeah.
and it's always raining and storming and stuff, and that always annoyed me because it was just like I didn't even notice
She
it
would
was
just stop.
yeah, I didn't even notice it was the Song of Storms, but
You don't really think about it until you're like getting really irritated because you need to do something and you're like, wait a minute, I hear Song of Storms. This
Yeah.
is set up.
like if you remember how rude Link was to the old man when you first start the game, because he promises you the paraglider if you complete the shrine and do some of the stuff, and then when he comes down to give you the paraglider, he asks you another favor to go around and do the other 3 shrines, and you can reply to him, you can choose what you want to say, but everything is still kind of rude. Like one of them is like, give me the paraglider, or like there are some that are less rude, but all of his replies are kind of rude. So if Link has that personality, I would imagine he would have just like went to Cass and broke his instrument. So it's like, stop playing for at least 2 minutes.
Can you hear that accordion breaking sound? I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Cass was awesome,
Oh, yeah.
though. He
Oh,
was
I
one of
love
my
Cass.
favorite character. He almost looks like a giant version of the Fruit Loops bird.
Toucan Sam.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so before we move on to the next thing, do you guys have any final thoughts on this?
I probably wouldn't use it, honestly.
Really?
Or I can't see it really being useful in the game unless they designed puzzles around it specifically.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
as the game
like-
is now, it probably wouldn't be very useful except for stopping the rain.
Yeah, do you think it would have, it says it controls weather, do you think that would go along with temperature? Like, do you think it would make it hotter or colder? Because if you control the weather and make it snow, obviously it's going to be colder, but like, and then there's some areas that snow wouldn't make sense. Like if you went to Death
Yeah.
Mountain and tried to make it snow, like maybe that's what they were thinking about. Like,
yeah, I
why they
think
took
there's
it
like
out.
some areas where that really doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like you're on top of Mount Hylia covered in snow and you just make it like a big sunny day. So I don't know. I'm just thinking
I don't know.
out loud. But yeah, so we skipped something kind of important that we normally do. We always like to introduce our guests whenever they come on for the first time. So Kayla.
You're right.
Hello.
And you didn't even shout out the patrons.
Yeah.
I
Good
didn't.
job,
I
Jesse.
suck.
Oh no.
All right.
Oh no.
Your
Well,
patrons are upset.
Yes.
They're probably
I feel
spamming us
horrible.
in chat right now.
Probably
So-
only 2 of them watching.
All right, let's. I think Ashley and the one are the 2 that watch
All
the
that.
So, I guess I'll have to like edit this part into the intro, but that's always fine. That's why we record instead of just doing it live. All right. So if you head over to patreon.com/GameOverJesse, you can have your questions take priority, as well as a bunch of other rewards like giving us topics for our podcast to discuss and joining on theory videos and some other stuff. Like we recently had sort of a competition, I guess you could call it, on the Discord server where we had 4 people who submitted their voiceovers and ended up winning. The first video went out, and actually I think Kayla, you also submitted something for it. So
Kind of unofficially submitted, but you know what? It's fine. Next time.
yes. So our Patreons for this week are George Martinez, Megan Neal, Casey Willis, Rusty Caulfield, Link Use the Triforce, Tight Lipped Gaming, Robbie Morgan, Shadow to Us, Lovable Christie, Key of Time 15, Lunarium, Michelle Jones, and the new Patreons, which I guess aren't really that new now. I need to update this. But
Not now.
Ashley, Monica, Justin, and The One. Thank you all for your support. Now, our topic. Kayla, who are you? Why are you here?
Why do we care?
Why am I here?
Why do we care about you?
I don't.